process of cognition. Hello.
We can hear you, sir. You can continue.
Yeah. Yes. So in this cognition, there is some process of thinking. One is logical thinking. As we know, in the cognition, one is knowledge. Second is analysis. Third is understanding, interpretation. These are all various steps in cognition. We can understand this is in a different way. One is knowledge. For example, as far as our knowledge is concerned, not only in adults, even children also, when they are in the process of understanding some concepts or some these definitions, first of all, they will understand the terms first. Basic terms or basic concepts, you can say. So this comes under level 1 of knowledge, first level of knowledge, understanding the basic terms, definitions, words, signs, and symbols. Okay. So here, after completion of this basic understanding of facts, forms, symbols, and signals, then next one is comprehension. How to comprehend these terms. As thinking is concerned, it is whatever we understand, whatever we know, whatever we hear. So we need to manipulating in our own way. The thinking is the manipulation of mental representation of what are the information. We got the information, that interpretation, information we need to manipulate it. We need to comprehend it. Okay. For example, if you want to answer a question, like first of all, we need to understand the question. No, what are the terms in the particular question? When we understand the terms in the question, then only it is easy to answer that question. So here, it is the comprehension is that whatever we know, whatever we have knowledge, that knowledge we need to comprehend in a second level of thinking. Okay, whatever we understand, the facts, the terms, and the definitions, based on our knowledge. So understanding is a deeper concept. Just for example, it is a car, or it is a phone. That is the one term or one word. So only we know that word, that is comes under the knowledge. Understanding is the deeper aspect. So if, for example, if it is a phone, so what we understand about the term of phone. So this is second level of knowledge. Third one is application. According to Bloom's taxonomy, these are the different levels of thinking. According to Bloom's taxonomy, first level is knowledge, second level is comprehension. So how to understand that whatever we heard, the term, the word, the definition. Second level is application. So when we know the word, when we understand that word, then it is easy to apply that particular definition or word in a various conditions and various situations. So application is the second, application is the third level of knowledge. So we can, for example, if you know the symbol, A plus B is the symbol, or A plus B whole square is the formula. If you heard about the A plus B whole square, then A and B, A plus B and whole square, these are the terms initially in the first level of thinking. We will know that words, it is a formula. Then next level is comprehension, you can say understanding. So understanding of the formula, so A plus B multiplied by A plus B is A plus B whole square. So the formula is A square plus B square plus 2AB. That is the formula. You heard about the A plus B whole square. second level, u plus p whole square is this much that you can comprehend, you can understand that. Now, so after understanding this particular formula, you need to apply this formula in various cases, in various examples, and various situations. So that is the third level of knowledge, that is thinking. Fourth level is analysis. Analysis means analyzing the overall concept in a small situations, or small parts. So analysis is from whole part to the small particles. Analyzing. This is the fourth level of thinking. Then fifth level is synthesis. This is quite opposite of analysis. Okay, analyzing whatever you understanding. So that analyzation is the fourth level of thinking, or fourth level of your cognitive part of thinking. Synthesis is whatever the different parts, we need to coordinate it. Synthesizing is quite opposite of analysis. For example, in your Gestalt theory also, Gestalt theory of our learning. So here in this case of Gestalt, various parts we will coordinate, we will synthesize those parts so that we will have some broad idea about the particular. So synthesis is the level of 5. Then evaluation, that is the sixth level of thinking. In this level, we can make a judgment about the information, whether it is correct or not, whether it is proper or not. Okay, so these are the various levels of thinking. As I mentioned, thinking, we know that in our behavior, one is cognitive, second is affective, third is cognitive, or you can say psychomotor. In cognition, first main important aspect is thinking. So when we see something, so we will think about that. So it is a complex and high level skill of cognitive, or cognitive skills, you can say. So whatever we see, we will be in a position to get knowledge of that particular aspect. So in this thinking, these are the 6 levels: knowledge, first level, second comprehension, third is application, fourth is analysis, fifth is synthesis, sixth is the evaluation. Then in other part of thinking is perceptual thinking. So whatever we perceive, so whatever we grasp from that environment, we need to forming a thoughts. Whatever we perceive, whatever we see in that particular area or environment, it comes under the perception. For example, if you see a building, so what you will have some perception of the particular building. Second, so if you heard the word of building, you will have some type of perception. So this building is like this, to some walls, some windows, some doors. So this is your perception of the building. So when we see that particular word, how you pursue that word, it is comes under the perceptual thinking. So perceptual thinking helps to focus on new ideas. Okay. So for example, if you, especially in the childhood stage, when you see new things, you will have some perception of that particular thing. Your perception will be different, some others' perception will be different. So how you think about the particular, how we think about the particular word, particular concept, so that is comes under the perceptual thinking. So when you are in a state of depression, anxiety, sleeping, and in a different situations of negative emotions, our perception will be in a different way. So perception changes on the environment, number one. Perception depends on the situation of a person. in some situation, if the person's emotion is normal in a positive emotion, a positive environment, so he's thinking, or you can say he's perceiving that particular situation, his perception of that particular incident, his perception of that particular concept will be in a positive side. If he is in a depressed situation, if the person is in a anxious, so he may be in a crisis, the perception will be in a negative. So the perceptual thinking is that how you perceive that particular situation, environment, concept, or anything. So what are the advantages of the perceptual thinking? So as I mentioned, thinking, levels of thinking, now perceptual thinking. So this perceptual thinking gives the variations in communication. So the perceptual thinking gives some sort of conflict management. If you have proper perception of a particular object, thorough understanding of particular incident or situations, the conflict will be less. So if you are not in a position to perceive properly in a positive way, so always we will be in a conflict. Why? Because you don't have the proper understanding of that particular situation. That is the reason there is a chance of getting conflict. So the perceptual thinking is more productive, because if the perception is in a normal way, in a perfect way, automatically the productive things can be done. It increases the productivity. Then if the perceptual thinking is normal, if we have proper perceptual thinking, so improving based on the perceptual thinking, the relations will be increased. And it also increases the rapport, means building relations with the other individuals. Got it? Then facilitating the communication among employees. For example, if we are in a professional setup, so if we have proper perception of that particular work, proper perception of that persons, proper perception of our own topics, or the content, you can say. Okay, so if we have the proper perception of our content, topic, whatever you are close there, so that your productivity will be increased and you will be in a position to provide services properly. So this perception also improves the learning. Process of learning is depending on the perceptual thinking. So as we know, it is a lifelong process of learning. If the perception is in a normal way, so learning process increases. It also increases for the lifetime. For example, for some people, they perceive that, they'll understand that, they think that. So I'm not in a position to learn so many things. That is their native way of thinking. If this perception is in a negative way, so they won't learn in a normal way. Okay, so if you get deeper understanding of any content, so that deeper understanding of this particular content will give self-confidence and self-esteem. It improves the self-esteem also. So it gives some sort of balancing in our life. Without proper understanding, you won't be in a position to satisfy our employees, maybe in any professional setups. So this perceptual thinking enhances the satisfaction. It improves our self-esteem, self-confidence. It also improves our creative thinking. Why? Because if the person is having proper understanding, if his or her perception is properly, so he will think in a creative way, without any depression, without any anxiety, without any stressful conditions. If a person is in a stressful condition, he may not be or she may not be in a position to think positively. So the perceptual thinking improves the creativity. So there are some basic tools of thinking. One is that images, especially in childhood stages, based on the images, like some sort of sounds, some sort of cues, some sort of mental images, psychological images. So they will think based on that images, based on that cues. So when they have proper understanding, that for example, in the cognition, as we know, there are four stages of cognition. Initial stage of cognition is that first stage of cognition is sensory stage, or you can say sensory motor stage. So in the sensory motor stage, the child learns, the child understands through their sensory organs. So whatever they see, whatever they hear, whatever they sensitize, based on that sensitization, based on that sight, based on that symbols, based on that images, so they think. So thinking involves the use of variety of symbols, images, concepts, and languages. So these comes under the tools of thinking. As I mentioned, the sensory motor stage, initial stage, their cognition. Cognition is thought process. As we know, thought process means thinking. This cognition based on these tools like symbols, images, concepts, and languages. So whatever the images, it will give some sort of skill improvement. Based, for example, especially in drawing skills of the children. So drawing skills. So they will have some sort of images before draw that diagram. For example, if you say that child to draw a face, a human face, so they know the images of the human, the face parts of the human, that is eyes, nose, mouth, neck. If these images, if the child learns about these images, then only it is easy to draw that diagram of human face. So these images is major part of tool in thinking process, or you can say thought process or cognition. So one is images. That is one tool of thinking. Second is concepts. Concepts. So one tool of thinking is concept. As I mentioned, for example, building. When they see the building, what is building? The concept of building, by seeing that building, they can understand. Okay? Same way, for example, if the child is in at 4th class or 5th class. So what is fraction? When you teach that mathematical concepts of fraction. So here, concept of fraction or types of fraction. First of all, they will heard the word of fraction. In getting first level of thinking, as I mentioned, knowledge. In that knowledge, only terms. The term is what the term here is fraction. Fraction is the term in the mathematical class, maybe power class or sports class. Okay, so they heard the word of fraction or fractional number. Okay, so the here concept is fractional number. So in the fractional number, they'll understand. Oh, so 1 by 2 is the fractional number. Again, if they want to understand the various types of fractional number, like proper fraction, improper fraction, or mixed fraction. So here only the terms they are knowing first. So the concept of fraction, the concept of different fractions like proper, improper, and mixed fraction. So here another tool of thinking is concept. First tool of thinking is the image. Second tool of thinking is concept. Third one is language. Language is the one important thing because communicating the information through some symbols, cues, or some sort of images. So the teacher communicating the child about the fractional number. So without language, it's not so easy to communicate it. So that it's not so easy to think about the fractional number, or you can say natural number. So first one is, as I mentioned, in thinking, tools of thinking, one is images. Second is concepts. Third is language. So without language, we cannot communicate whatever we wanted to explain to the children or any other individuals. So here, language is the major part of communicating the information to the other individuals. Then how the influence of the language on thinking. So language, whatever the language may be, that may be the maybe any other languages. So the influence of the language, how are you communicating the concepts, the images to the others or other individuals. Based on that, so he will think. If the communication is a proper way, for example, without any hurdles, without any disturbances, without any this communication problem. So the language is the way of communicating. So the influence of the language is on the communication. So that the influence of the language and communication is on thought process, or you can say thinking. See, in cognitive, that is stages, cognitive development stages. Second is pre-operational stage. First stage is sensory motor stage. Second stage of cognition is the pre-operational stage. Here, pre-operations. Operations means activities, pre-operations. How to operate those cognitive skills. So based on the previous sensory motor, like images, concepts. So operations will be part. For example, mathematical operations, multiplications, divisions, additions, and subtraction is a mathematical operation. So operations, if they understand the first level, then only it is easy to operate in that. So third level is concrete stage, concrete operational stage. So only concrete things they'll think here. They will be in a position to think only in the concrete aspect. Means visible things. As I mentioned, sensory motor stage in sensory level, only they'll have the first level of thinking, that is hearing about the words, knowing about the terms. Then pre-operational, concrete operational means concrete thinking or concrete cognition is that. So in that particular age of, first one is the 0 to 2, 2 to 7, 7 to 11 years of age, the children can think about only concrete things, concrete objects, the visible things. So that is their thought process. That is the level of their thinking. Then next one is the abstract, or you can say formal stage of cognition. In this formal stage of cognition, concrete things they'll think. They will be in a position to think about the abstract things, not only the concrete, even abstract aspects also. They will be in a position to think. So here in the thought process, as I mentioned, image is the one tool, concept is the second tool, language is the third tool. Language and the thought, as I mentioned, language and thought, or you can say cognition, is interlinked. For example, without any grammatical mistake, if we communicate the concept, so automatically the thought process, the thinking will be in a proper way. There are some rules of language for every language. There are some rules how to use that language. Based on that language only, will communicate the concepts to others. So here, when we communicate in a proper way, automatically the thought process or the thinking is in a systematic way. So overall, the influence of the language on thinking, as I mentioned initially, images, second is concepts, third is language, and fourth one is the language and the cognition, language and the thought process. So this language influence always will be there on their thought process. As I mentioned, different levels of thought, different levels of cognition, like sensory level, pre-operational level, concrete operational level, and the formal operational level, based on the age, based on the understanding capacity. Okay?
It's so clear. Thank you.
Any doubts? Anything else? So I have some other class now. I need to go to second year class. Sorry to interrupt.